Good morning.
Morning.
Hey
Hey,
Bill,
Bill.
did you not get you didn't get anything from the Discord when you sent in to get a new password?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So when it comes to Discord and reset usernames and passwords, I don't have any control of that.
Well, I
Um,
maybe you could fire me, cut me out completely, and then reinstall me.
that's a good idea. Um, I'll try to do that this morning and see what I
Okay,
can do.
I'm at that rate that keep that same rate.
Oh yeah, on the Discord, that's not gonna change. You'll be good.
Okay, you'll take care of that.
I will, so I'll go in and delete you. I'll figure out how to delete you and then send you the new link, invite link, and go from there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Thanks for your patience. All right. Little
Okay,
administration, huh? There.
you get a little administration talk. Poor Trent still don't have an air conditioner down there in Florida, so he looks a little hot. He probably is. So he's got that ceiling fan rolling behind him. So that hopefully that'll help keep him
Yeah.
cool. So Wednesday, July 8th, not financial advice, morning edge. Yesterday,
It's ninth.
what's that?
It's the ninth.
Yeah. Oh, the 9th. Yeah, July 9th.
Yeah,
Did I
you said
skip?
the eighth.
Oh, all right, went behind a little. It is the 9th. S&P was down 0.07% yesterday. Dow was down 0.37%, and NASDAQ was up 0.3%. So kind of an interesting day. Not really anything happened today. All the talk is about the release of the FOMC meeting minutes. That's the Federal Open Market Committee where they talk about, the interest rates and such. And, markets are looking for clues about the interest rate. We've been looking for clues about the interest rate for months now, and the market just continues to go up. So I don't really care what they do at this point, and it looks like political anyway to me what they're doing, and all the other major uh, banking centers
Oh,
around the world have reduced their rates consistently lately over the last 6 to 8 months, and ours has not done anything. So we'll see what happens. That's again, it's news driven. We see a lot of news driven market activity, and then we're back on the tariff front, and that's creating uncertainty. They say, but there's always uncertainty somewhere in the market. Otherwise, we'd have no variation and volatility in the market. So anyway, it looks like we're going to be up a tad today. We're looking at the Dow up a little, S&P, NASDAQ, oil's up again, and the 10 years down just a bit. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to go over to kind of our chart here. And Monday, took a lot of stops. We got out on the swing trade watch list. Everything in yellow has been stopped out or hit a resistance level. Estee Lauder did yesterday. Okay, it hit a sell limit, and we closed up about 13.19% on that swing trade. These were all out. We're still in Textron. We're up about 2.2%. Nothing's really changed on that. Comerica, we're still in that. We're down on that one. Again, I have the 2% downside on that one, so it has not hit that. Like Amgen hit 2% and went out just to save me from going any further. Three of them these were on our list on Monday, but since Monday went down, there was just no entry point in them. And yesterday there were three that hit an entry point: Jacobs, Pure Storage, and Artista Networks. And we'll take a look at those charts. So those three came into play, but PPG, Ball, and XLY are out still. So when we look at the watch list, Monday took out a lot of our watch list. The two that are left with Bath and Body Works, we're still in at about 18.5%. Invesco, 6.31%. When we come down, we had three that, we're on new on the list Monday. Monday was down. They, wouldn't get in at that point. Yesterday came up and it hit some buy on EPAM systems. I'll show you that chart. And we're up a little bit, almost 2% on that. And I'll show you how I do that. And then momentum stocks just totally out of everything. And even the ones that were on the green line of death came on, or the intermediate resistance level. So it took those guys out. So again, we'll go take a look at some of these charts. Okay, put this up. Hold on. Okay, let's come down here. Look at the SPY. Okay, here we go. SPY. Again, just over a little bit. Come up. Here's our intermediate resistance level. We've come up, tried to come up to where the sell orders are, came back down, and now we're just right at intermediate. Looks like we're going to open just a little above that. Had a nice run up, a little bit of a sideways movement, still above the 9, still at resistance area. Have a little room. I mean, this could pop up. The market has put, sell orders at about 628.75, and yesterday we closed at 620, so it's about 8 points above that, right in line with the upper Bollinger Band. Seeing a little bit of a rollover on the MACD. We had one on the stochastic, so again, just be aware that we could be in sideways pattern here for a little bit, but we'll see. Dow Jones looks like the S&P came up, kind of popped a little bit on resistance, came back down. Now we're going to open a little bit above where we closed. Again, you've got some sell orders up here, 453. We closed at 442, so a little bit of run, but you got to get past this resistance level. And again, we come down here, starting to see the rollovers of some of the oscillators. So just be aware if you're in it with, the 200, you're still doing pretty well for an investment. So just be aware of that. Qs. And again, these are reflections of the Mag 7. We'll look at those charts and see, they'll look just about the same as this. Qs came up, we ran, hit the intermediate resistance level, pop back down for 2 days. Looks like we're going to open right about, where we closed a little bit. Again, that resistance above you, sell orders above you, supports at the 9. The 9's coming up close to the resistance level. We see that a lot of times we come back down. We'll see what happens. News driven, anything can happen to pop this, but right now we're kind of in a sideways consolidation look. Gold. Yesterday, gold. Again, we're just running along resistance. Now you've seen the 9 come down below resistance. And we're going to open up a little below where we did yesterday on gold as money moves back into equities. And again, look at the Bollinger Bands. There's just sideways and parallel. So again, consolidating on gold. Nothing really happening there. Bitcoin. Bitcoin's up a little. It's at 109.5, so we're getting close to that 110 level. The high is 111.8, $111,800. And so again, we're starting to see just a little bit of a run. We're running on an upward moving 9-day moving average. We're way above the 200. We're still between kind of this support and resistance. My 3-month up, so you can see that. Let me get my 6-month up so you can see that. Okay, so you can see we're still having it come back up to the high, but we're starting to see this roll come back up. We do have a rollover on stochastic a little bit, but it hasn't affected the MACD as of yet. And we're still above 50. We're at 57, almost 58 on the RSI. So again, came down, we tested this level of support, got back above resistance, and now, you see the 9, the 20, and the 50 all rolling up the same way. And these are good levels of support. Something's going to happen really to get it to blow through those, and then a resistance level or support level down here. So we got 4 support levels below, and we'll see what happens. But it's looking pretty positive at the moment for Bitcoin as we're coming back up to that 110,000 level. Sorry, was out on the tractor all day yesterday, so I got half my field in my throat. Okay, NVIDIA. If it will come up. And it won't. System's a little slow this morning. Okay, so NVIDIA. It's a 3-month daily chart. Again, we have resistance. We've hit it a couple times, and right here we're going to open right below resistance again. It looks like S&P in the Q's chart, we've come up along the Bollinger Band. We're moving sideways, kind of in the consolidation. We'll see if we can pop it up above resistance and maintain it. We're not seeing too much excitement on the oscillators. It's kind of moving sideways, but in positive territory. But again, just kind of waiting. Tariffs, are out there again. We've had this before when we were waiting to see what was happening. Tariffs, and now tariffs are back in the news. Meta, same thing. Meta came up, got a little bit above resistance, and now we're just going sideways on resistance. You can see the converging Bollinger Bands, but we're still above the 20 and the 9. But look at this 9's coming up, is rolling right by the 9 or the upper in this upper resistance level, and we may see that roll again. We'll see. It's getting awful close, and we're squeezing this price between support and resistance here, and we'll see which way it pops. But the oscillators are looking like it's going to potentially, go sideways to downish a little bit. But do have support at the 9 and then at the 20 on Meta. Microsoft. Same look on Microsoft. We've come up resistance. Here we got the 9 coming up and squeezing between that and the intermediate resistance level. We've hit this before, and again, something's going to happen at some point. The stochastic indicates maybe it might be going up a little bit. The MACD is not that way yet, but again, sideways, but not much as far as price movement, the last couple of days on the Microsoft either. This is after a nice run, so you'd expect a little bit of consolidation and decide what it's going to do. But, when you see this 9 come up and compress against the resistance level, that's usually, something's going to happen. And if this rolls over and starts heading back down, we'll probably see some price action. Kind of slide a little bit on Microsoft. We'll see. Google. Google finished down yesterday. It was kind of floating above the resistance, came back down, but it was good because it actually found some support at the 200. We'll see if that can maintain or not. The oscillators are looking like they're rolling a little bit. Again, we're below the 9 now. We're right on the 20 and right above the 200. So we'll see. It's done this before. It's kind of did a run and then got back down below the 200. So here we are. We're just kind of zigzagging around the 200 on Google. So we don't see that taking off like on an investment where you'd want to get in because it's over the 200. It's continue to run up. Bollinger Bands aren't really telling us it's going to continue to run up. So if I was investing this, I'd wait and see if I could get more momentum above that 200, which we're not seeing right now. Apple, had a nice run up and then came back within the Bollinger Bands. It's going to open up right about where it closed. You still got a Bollinger Band moving up. You still have the 9, the 20 crossed over the 50. This could consolidate and continue up. We're seeing a little rollover on the MACD, not yet, but we did have a crossover on stochastic. So we'll just watch, but you're still within, support at the 20, resistance at the upper Bollinger Band on Apple. Amazon. Come on, Amazon. Amazon don't want to come up. Still don't want to come up. Invalid symbol. Oh, no wonder. Put the right symbol in and it will work. Again, Amazon right up against resistance, and it's just hard to get past that. And we're starting to see a rollover of the 9 here on Amazon. Did have a good golden cross of the 50 over the 200 on Amazon, so that's normally a good sign. But right now we're just stuck in a sideways pattern on Amazon. And Palantir again, this came up and look at the 9 rolling right on the resistance level. We move it in a little closer so we can see here. I can get it to move. Here we go. And you can see that 9 rolled up, and here's squeezing, popped it out on the top, started rolling down, and it came back down. And now we're kind of over it again, but right at resistance. You've got the 20, you've got the 9 coming down as support, and we'll see what happens. The 50's right there along the Bollinger Band also. The oscillator there, the MACD is still below the signal line. did get a pop on the stochastic, so we'll see what happens. But again, we've been going sideways for a while on Palantir. So I go to the 200 list. We're still in BBWI. We're up over 13%. It's still maintaining. Came back on Monday and retested the 200, which is good, and then it's continued back up yesterday. And you got a nice Bollinger Band. So this has been a good runner for under the 200. It's taken over for Whirlpool, and you can see we got on the list way back here. So have your stops in maybe below the 200. I always go back and look at where we have some change off between highs and starts, and maybe put that in. Otherwise, you're so far up, you could put it even down to support level where it hasn't touched in a long time, or just put a trailing stop on if you want, percent wise or dollar wise. But we're still in that for over 13%. IBZ, we're still in that out of all, and IVZ did the same, kind of came back within the Bollinger Band, which you would expect, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times out, which is really rare. Came back within, and then we're just playing along the Bollinger Band again. So we did, and we got in back at this level. We're up 6.3%. So that one did not stop out yet, like the rest of them did. EPAM, this is the new one. That yesterday, we had this, I was watching this one, and then you had, Monday. Okay. So didn't want to enter on Monday because I didn't know what was going to happen. It had this big run up, and then it got beat back down. So you just wait. But then you look on, for Wednesday, you're looking at, okay, what's going to happen? You go back and you say, wow, right about here, it seems to be support and resistance. So that's about where you'd put in your buy order just to see if you can catch it, at 179.97. So this opened up at 181.50. So you're down below that. And then, it popped down and actually would trigger the buy signal and then ended up. So, on EPAM, with that, you would be up 1.8% just by bargain shopping and hitting that. I mean, everything else looks pretty good. We just had to get a better price. And in this case, it happened. And I did it by going back and looking at where, past prices opened and closed. And that's where I like to either put buy orders or on the downside, my sell limits to get out. And that seems to work good for me. What else we got? Like HPQ was on the list, but we didn't get into HPQ. I just don't like it at this point because it has to get past 15 and hasn't got past. So I wouldn't get into HPQ at this point, even though it's kind of rolling up a little bit. We are under the 200, but the stochastic's down. So that would be a decision that I wouldn't get into and didn't. So a couple out there that you may want to look at under the 200. Cooper, it's riding up on this slow moving Bollinger Band. Just be careful here at the 50, which will be a pretty good line of resistance, but there's some pretty good days on Cooper under the 200. We also have BTRS. Same kind of thing. I like these slow movers that go between support and resistance. This came back in from the Bollinger Band on BTRS. I'm a little worried about the crossover on the stochastic, but if you could get in close to support and just try to ride it. I'd like to see this Bollinger move a little, stronger to the upside. So this is a weaker one, but it shows potential at some point. And then DJT, which is Trump Media, they're getting into the Bitcoin era and coins and stuff. This one has classic come down, follow along support level. 9 comes down, gets above it, and then we start seeing support go up. So watch it here at the 20 for support. You still have Bollingers that are coming down, and that's right where the sell orders are. But we're starting to see that move up in the oscillators too. But it's under the 200, so use appropriate risk management on under the 200. On our watch list, we finally got out of Estee Lauder. Okay, Estee Lauder, we got in here. Technically, you could stay in. I mean, you got support here. We're in down here, but what I see is we come up on the Bollinger Band, and then we have a day coming down on a pretty good candle. And I went back and said, well, right here is where I would put a sell limit. And I use sell limits a lot, so I can just leave. And it did wick down and get it. It closed above it a little bit. But, when you look at Estee Lauder, 13.19% gain on a swing trade, I'll take it. I didn't like this downward trend for 3 days. And you're starting to see some rolls on the oscillators too. So out at 13%. TXT, oops, still in TXT. Here's where the cost basis is. It's still rolling up the Bollinger Band. You got some cells up here. You know, you may want to sell it off if it hits up there, put it in a sell. You're back down here. You know, if you want to, on the bottom side, you could put in a sell limit right here at the 9 or a little bit below, and you're still going to make a profit on that one. But you know, it's still rolling up. I like this trend. It's your friend until it's not. So we're still in TXT on the watch list. CMA. This one still in, but it's below where we put it on the list. Okay, now this is not where I would have bought it, but this is where it was on the list. So I'm trying to play the game right, and it's coming inside. So a lot of times you see when it comes back with inside the Bollinger Band, and you're above the 200 and the 9, and the 9 is going to cross the 200, you'll catch some more momentum and run up, and you'll see all the way up to 90. 64.27 is our next level of resistance. So still in, we're down about 1%. So it hasn't hit my 2% level down, but we're above the 200 too. So still in, even though we're down 1%. J. J's one that, you know, I would have put in a buy yesterday right here. I mean, look at where these are hitting. And right at that point, it would have hit. And then we would have been up, and we'd be up on J about 0.73%. So again, still got a rising Bollinger Band, still got a 9 above the 200 and rising. The 20s above the 200 going to cross. We got the 50 rolling up, and the oscillators all still look good on J. We had this came in, and this is what we just looked at on that other chart. Came in above the Bollinger Band, and then moved sideways within the Bollinger Band, and then started to roll up again. So hopefully we'll see J continue to roll up, and you don't have any resistance other than the upper Bollinger Band until 134.91. So nice run on J. And this is one that was on the list that wouldn't have got in on Monday, but definitely got in on Tuesday. Ball was one where this is where I put the buy order, and it missed. Okay, I went back, tried to get it right here at the open of a couple of days ago, and you can see it did not wick down and hit. So this one was a miss. Maybe if I'd have come back and done it, you know, at the level here where it closed, definitely would have hit. But sometimes I just want to get a little better on my cost basis. And this is one that didn't hit. So we'll watch it again today. Then maybe we will. This one though has, you know, it still has the 200 heading down, but it has a nice trend up on ball. So, and you got some room to run. There's some sell orders. That I don't know why it's there. And here's your resistance way up here. So I like this. We're above the 200, move sideways, just missed it because I just placed the limit order a little too low. PPG didn't get in. This was on the list, but it didn't quite. It's just not making it past that 50. So you want, or the 200, you want to make sure you get past that 200 in a meaningful way and keep moving up. And it just hasn't. So we're just still going to watch PPG. PSTG. This is one. Come on back. This is one that you look again. I said, okay, where would I want to put a buy order on PSTG after yesterday? So it opened up here. Okay, right at this point here, and that's at 56.72. So I'm always looking for a bargain. Okay, it's an up day, and so I go back and said, right in this level, you can see, you know, the support and resistance. So you put in, you know, your limit order at this point right above support, and it did come back and it hit the wick. You would have hit into the PSTG, and you would be up 1.93%. So that's how I kind of go to look how to get into these, you know, and not buy at the high. I don't like buying at the upper Bollinger. I like buying down here and using from support to resistance as a gain, potential gain, instead of buying at the top where your gain might just be in momentum only. Here I actually have 3 oscillators telling me it's good. I've got some moving averages telling me it's good. And so that would be awesome to buy right at that level. And there's a couple others, LVS, that are looking good as far as, you know, this is moving right along the upper Bollinger. It crawled over the 200 and just took off. Again, I wouldn't like to buy up here. I always try to buy more down to support. It's not my kind of buy, but some of you guys like the momentum plays, so I put them on here. QRVO. Again, this is at least, you know, it's came up, came back within The Bollinger Band, still above the 9. These are all rising. Got a golden cross right here. A little bit of a roll on the stochastic, but still QRVO. It gives you an opportunity to get in at a better price. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, well, would I put in a buy right at this point and it would have hit? Okay. Or do I come down here and try to get it right above the 9? It's really up to you on what your plan is. And, it's kind of like shopping and going for sale and some, or on an auction, you bid and then someone overbids you. But if you could get it right above the 9, even with this movement up, then you have some more opportunity to the upside. So a lot of, how much profit you make is at what level do you get in. TFC, it's another one that took off right along the Bollinger and pulled back in. Truist Financial still has some room, a little bit of a roll on the MACD, but watch this, and it had a nice run. Again, I like to get them back down here where they run up, as opposed to on the top of the Bollinger Bands. But a lot of people like to run the momentum. And then Zeihan, we talked about Zeihan last week. Once it got above the 200, it took off, again, along the upper Bollinger Band. Now it's pulled back in, and maybe if you can get it a little lower, it still has room. But I like these. When you see it running above the 200, you see all the moving averages moving up. You see the oscillators moving up on Zeihan. A couple others that we looked at. This one. This one's kind of concerning. Why Berkshire finally had a full candle below the 200, and I'm going to be watching this. And now it's just following the Bollinger Band down. It's just perplexing as to why this continues. And it'll be interesting to see if rest of the market kind of cues off this and see something different. Because Berkshire is not what you would call a cash poor, not well run company. But we'll see what happens. If that is interesting on Berkshire, because that hasn't happened in a long, long time. As you can see, we've always found support at the 200, and now you've seen it drop under a little bit. So it's kind of concerning. I'm going to keep watching it. I have a lot of Berkshire, but I got a better cost basis in this. But as a swing trade, you're definitely out, and as an investment, you're concerned that, depending on what your cost basis is on Berkshire. And again, United Health, we're still waiting for United Health, just kind of swinging along the support level. And at some point, we've got a little bit of a roll kind of trying to get up on stochastic. We'll see if this thing bounces at all. But again, just sideways for a long, long time on United Health, but again, on the watch list. And then
just as a note on that, DOJ came out this morning. The DOJ is investigating them for medical fraud.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
going to suck.
Yeah, so I would suspect that will be dropping probably today.
Well, we will probably see that, Bob. Yeah, news will move it, won't it?
Yep.
Here's another one. If you're an investor or Amgen's not quite there, tried to get above the 200, came back and tested, still just riding the 200, and the 200 is still moving down. So if you're looking for an investment in Amgen and using Paul Tudor Jones, still kind of hold off on that, and we'll see what happens from Amgen's point of view. Okay, sorry, that's what I got. There was a lot of stuff happening yesterday and a lot of movements. So I just wanted to let you guys know. And back over to Trent, Hot Trent in his hot house.
Yep.
No air conditioning?
Yeah, it went out yesterday.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, well, it double
like
sucks
Bob.
because my
Bob's so
water
full
heater
of-
went out as well.
Oh man.
So he's got hot air and cold water.
Double jeopardy.
I love your empathy,
Bank
Bob.
account just went like that.
Oh,
All right, so
man.
this is AEHR. They reported earnings. They missed on revenue estimates by 15%. Earnings per share, GAAP earnings per share were down as well. They did come out with more of a upbeat guidance. They're diversifying out from what their business model has been to more AI-driven type of chip analysis, that kind of thing. So that is a positive. A lot of people are saying, it's not today, it's down the road that this stock is going to take off. it looks like it's gonna open up at $12 today, so that's basically $3.17 off where it closed yesterday. That's still above the 200, still above the intermediate trend line, but it is below the trade trend line. So we will see an allocation change most likely, depending on where it closes tonight, in the Telshoe 12 portfolio. Um, Encouraging, a lot of the other positions are still holding their ground and look to open as though this is a firm, AMD, ARM looks to open up roughly just under $2 above where it closed yesterday at 147.79. Still, if you're following the MACD or the RSI, you still have it down trending. So a break above the 15 or the trade trend line would be a positive and possibly see a directional change in those oscillators. Broadcom still holding above trade trend line, but still has this, sort of sideways movement since 1st of June. Or excuse me, last of June. So that's something to take into account because your RSI seems to be faltering right at about 70 mark, and the MACD is just going sideways. Credo Technologies looks to open higher today by roughly just under $2. So that could be the beginning of a breakout of this consolidation period. It has been following that trade trend line. So that's been positive. Like to see the MACD turn higher and the RSI continue higher above. IBM, basically trading sideways, possibly an accumulation phase or a selling repositioning phase for institutions. Just be aware their earnings will come out on the 23rd of July. Iran looks to open higher by a handful, 30 or 50 cents or so. But it's still struggling to get above this, looks like 1850 or so, just rounded up to 1850 mark. Would definitely like to see some more movement there, but always consider the fact that this gap between the trade trend line and where it's at is pretty substantial. And historically, it will come down. You saw a gap up here back in June 10th, and it eventually came down, retested the trade trend line. I would not be surprised if that is what is about to come about over the next week or so. So be aware of that if you're looking to add a new position into this or add to a position. Meta just seems like it's just struggling with this line or this resistance that it established back in February, and is still trailing the trade trend line, which is positive, but your RSI is weakening, your MACD is weakening. So take that in account. Really, Meta is one of those companies. It's top of the, it's the big seven, whatever, Mag 7. It's getting those inflows from 401k contributions every 2 weeks. It's getting flows from institutional ETFs, all that kind of thing. So this is one of those stocks, as long as flows continue into those major growth mutual funds, ETFs, and 401ks, this is one of those that'll go up. But earnings is coming up. This is earnings season, so take that into account. Microsoft, similar scenario. Just be aware what they have, Microsoft and Meta have, NVIDIA has, is flows from institutional and retail investors because people buy large cap growth, large cap ETFs, so XLK, that kind of thing. So that will continue to be a supporting element unless they just completely blow earnings, which I don't expect them to completely blow it, but Micron back above the trade trend line, that's a positive, looks to open higher by looks like 60 cents or so roughly. The intermediate trend line's starting to look like it's going to move through the 200. That is a positive. I like that. your MACD, remember that is a slow oscillator. So it's going to be slow to move higher, but it looks like a possible turn in the next couple of days. Just keep an eye on it. And then PSIX, Power Solutions International, took a dump yesterday, down 13.36%, came down to the trade trend line, closed below the trade trend line, looks to open up roughly just short of $1 at 64 or 69 today. So to close above that trend line would be a positive. But just look at this move down in RSI, the move down in MACD, keep that in mind. Let's see if it can hold this trade trend line as it has since, what was that, back in the 1st of May or the first week in May or so. It's just held this. So let's, be aware of this, but the momentum on this seems to be continuing higher. It retests the trade trend line every so often. Saw it back in June and so on. So just keep that in mind. VIX continues to be suppressed below the into the investable bucket. Option markets are still market makers are very positive gamma, which means they're suppressing volatility because of how they have to hedge their books. So that's a positive. And with volatility controlled funds, this suppression of volatility means they become more risk on. So they'll be most likely putting on more risk, which is good for equities and will continue to push equities higher. So overall, I think the big sore thumb in the Telesheet 12 is AEHR. Earnings are coming. Just be aware of that. As Mark says, just be aware of earnings because you just don't know what they're going to report. AEHR is probably one of those that came out, really down 15% in revenue, which is something also to take into account in the semiconductor world because they are the ones who have the testing systems for semiconductors. It could be a sign of a slowing in the semiconductor world, which would be a reflection on companies like Broadcom, like NVIDIA, and so on. So be careful of that. Be aware of that. Always have a risk management policy in place because I think this is the time of year. This is time in history where we could see a pivot because of economic data, because of all this. We haven't really seen that filter through the system yet into the stock market. And I think we possibly could see more negative earnings and revenue from some of the big Mag 7, as well as a lot of the semi and high AI related companies. So we'll leave it there. And Mark, you have a list of stocks you.
Yeah, these guys are loading us up today, Trent. And one of them was PSI. I actually just talked about it from an intermediate trade, and from a swing trading point of view, this had a nice run. I was looking at the volumes, 200,000, 200,000, 300,000. And then we got into, these last 2 days, 878,000, 1.4 million on these 2 down days. So the question was, is this just an overreaction, or profit taking on this? And the way I look at it from a technical standpoint of view, I don't know, but I do know it hit resistance and it couldn't get past. And then look at this is for TA only, Bollinger Band rolling over, the 9 rolling over, the oscillators rolling over. So, stocks don't go up forever. And this was a nice run on this. And at some point, yeah, people or algorithms are going to take their profits out of these, and then go move it somewhere else.
Because I wonder if that's insider trading.
I'm
Could be.
actually looking it up
I
right
don't
now.
know.
Owners, options, getting out options.
That's possible, Bob. And they look at the same charts I do, and a lot of the indices I use are used by big algorithms, and then they hit, and then when they hit, they get out, and especially on a thinly traded stock when you're only trading 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, it doesn't take
And
much.
all of a sudden you're at $1 million.
Down. Yep, and now you're at 1.4 million, okay, and 800,000 here. Even on this update, where were we? 400, this big update, only 400,000 stocks were traded, and now we're at 1.4 million. So again, technically wise, I got out at this green line. That's always my where I like to get out, and sometimes it goes higher, but it doesn't all the time. And now this is what we're seeing. So technically that's what I see on this. And Trent went over long term, it went down to his intermediate line. And now it's a question of, okay, is it going to stay above that or not as far as an investment portfolio? AEVA, you have the same question on this one. I haven't looked at this one.
Hey,
AEVA.
I was just gonna say one thing about the PSIX if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so last 13 earnings, it's beat earnings, and it's got a forward PE of 21, and it's got a PEG of 0.1. That's for the PSIX. So the value of this is actually still really good. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's been going up for a long time, and it can certainly go down, and that's why I was throwing the question out to you. And that's great perspective that you threw out. But I just wanted to give you that information as well.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. And I also, it's helpful when Trent did it on his chart. You can see that from an investment point of view, he looks at a different longer term. It came down and hit this tradable line, or what was it? What's it hitting right on, Trent? You call it your tradable line or whatever that
trend,
is.
Oh, my trade trend line.
And so Trent said, I'm going to
15.
watch that and see if it bounces off of that. From my point of view, this has to turn around. From a short-term swing trade, I'm done. But from a long-term, intermediate term, Trent's like, okay, I'm not quite done with this one yet, depending on what it does today, basically, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, yes.
Okay. He's hot.
The answer is yes.
He's warm today. Here's another
so
one
tired.
from Philip. This is Philip's also. And Philip, are you in this one too? This AEDA? I mean, this is another one that rode pretty well. This one has volume though.
So when it came down probably a week ago, where you see that first red line that came down, I felt like that was an overreaction. I jumped back in right there, rode it up. I got out just in time, which is, I got pretty lucky there. Got out, came back down. I just bought back in. As soon as it hit that line, I just bought back in again. So it's I'm looking at the 20, and it's the wick from what I could see was touching the 20. It's going up at a pretty angle. You got the 50 and the 150 and the 20, and they're all going up at these really pretty angles. So I'm thinking that this is good to go, but it could be the same thing that you just said about PSIX. It could be, hey, it's gone up long enough. So I don't know.
I mean, you got up here, you got some people with sell orders at 36.73. But again, watch your Bollinger Bands because they're kind of converging now, and also watch your oscillators. If it's a trade, it's a trade. If it's an investment, it's totally different. Trent, you want to pull this one up on yours and see what you see? AEBA. Let's see what it looks like more longer term according to your AEBA.
Say that again. AG.
AEVA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
AEVA Technologies.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Let's see here.
See what yours looks like compared to mine.
So the trade trend line has been following it since really substantially since May. 1st of May, it's followed that, come down in July 1st, and then it's now closed below it yesterday by 31 cents. Looks to open at 29.90. RSI, I mean, it's gapping down. MACD's gapping down. I'd just be real quiet. I'd run it, especially on a long-term standpoint, depending on where you got it. I'd run, I'm probably got 7% trailing stop on it. So if you got in back here, you've done really well. Preserve those profits. But right now, if I'm looking at this, is there support at 27.57? Possibly. Is there support at 18.85? Possibly. If 18.85 puts you right near that intermediate trend line, that's my line in the sand. So I would look at this as if I'm entering this, if I'm considering entering this on an intermediate to long-term basis, I'd give it some time to figure out its stuff. Because this trade trend line, if it closes below that, that is basically front running to 20. day moving average. So keep that in mind. So we could see a pullback towards sort of this support area of right around $18. So to me, that's what I would look at this and go, hey, this could be interesting around 18 if it holds up as support and could be another good entry point from a
Because
intermediate.
Philip said he just rebought in. So it looks like you might have rebought in right at where your trade trend line is, maybe.
Yes, I mean he's within, what's that, 40 40 cents or so. So I would just watch it. You may want to run a tighter stop. Um, but typically on intermediate long-term trades, I would run a set, about a 7%, 7 to 10% trailing stop. If this is a company you're like, I think will go higher. But definitely uh right now it just looks like you gotta let it figure itself out at the trade trend line, in my opinion. I'd just be
Okay.
cautious here, bottom line. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Like the 7%
Perfect.
gave me a second ago. That sounds great. I'll do that.
Okay, I think you also talked about Philip Intel. Intel had a huge old candle, and you see a lot of huge candles in Intel. When you look at this, right up to resistance, basically. Intel is an interesting company. I don't know what to think of them as a company, but as a trade, it worked out fairly well. But right now, I'm seeing it hit right on resistance. So that wouldn't be a place I would certainly enter at this point for me on Intel. MODG.
I wonder about Intel because it is one of the biggest players, one of the big players in semis, and yet it just seems not to be able to figure their stuff out. And it's like, why? You know, I mean, that's a management thing, in my opinion. That's a
I
problem.
think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they just got caught with their pants down, and all of a sudden they woke up and there was an Nvidia, and all these others that passed them. When I was in the computer industry, I worked for Compact Computer. Intel was the king, man. They were everywhere. Andy Grove and those guys ran it, and then they just kind of lost their way. I think they got complacent, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Intel drove everything. Intel and Microsoft drove. It was the hardware that drove the software when we first started at Compaq, and then, then the software drove in the processors drove the hardware. And
Sounds like Apple right now.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of hear the same thing. Yep.
I think
Losing their way.
Apple announced their COO is retiring here this year.
Yeah, he was the
So
design guy, right?
No, that's Chief Operating Officer.
Yeah, I know, but he was involved in the design of the products.
Probably.
It's not the guy who's Steve Jobs used to tote around with. He's not that guy. It's a different guy.
They said
I
that
think he
now
left
that
years
he's
ago.
leaving, the design is basically going to report to Tim Cook now. So there must
Oh,
be
really?
something going on. There's a shakeup going on, right? Apple's
Yeah.
not doing that great. They're behind the 8 ball. They better get some
Somebody's-
millions out and start handing them out to some key guys.
Somebody must be sacrificed, Bob.
Yep, it's the way it
Yeah,
goes.
that's what
Someone
happens in
has
these
to
companies.
fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Captain Miz wanted to look at MODG, which is Topgolf Callaway brands. Now, I was kind of watching this one way back when it got above the 200 and it went, and then it kind of cracked up. And 2 days it fought with the stellar resistance level. It's come back down a little bit. We do see it's still above the 9. A little bit roll on the stochastic. So again, a little bit of sideways movement on here. What is our volume? 2.8, 2.4, 1.7. Yeah, just again, if you want to get in on this, I'd rather see this Bollinger Band still moving up as opposed to moving sideways, but because that'll be your resistance again if you do get in, unless something can get this to move a little faster. But right now, we're seeing it downward to, an indecision candle here on MODG.
Hey, Mark.
CNC?
Hey, Mark, if you span out, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years on it, you're gonna see this thing has just been falling since June of 21.
Yeah. I mean, I look at these things and, I like to just automatically do one of these. I
Yeah.
just, yeah. And so,
Sorry,
yeah,
the
man,
only reason I asked was there's been a lot of insider trading. I believe the CEO or something just bought a lot of stock in it. And
Huh. Well, they are building a new one down the road from me.
well, I also heard that they're breaking out the Top Golf from the Callaway. They're going to have two separate stocks. That's just the rumor.
Oh,
But I didn't
wow.
know if that was going to affect it or not. I think Top Golf's been kind of pulling down what they believe Callaway would do on its own.
Huh, that's
what I
interesting.
do like on this is it's above the 200. And you can see it has pretty good support right down here. We've been playing around that support level, trying to get up. You can see it again up here. So it made 1 cent a share on the last earnings, and then that dumped it all the way down to the 50. And again, it popped back up, and maybe that's on some of that buying rumor there, and maybe some of that's wearing off. But
Yeah.
it does have a downtrend, and if it goes back up, this is a long-term trend. This yellow line I drew, going back 5 years. So if it did get up that far, that's going to be your next level of resistance after you go through several other levels of resistance. So interesting, though. I would keep watching it. I mean, it's above the 200. We're seeing the 50 move up. We're seeing the 20 move up and the 9 move up. Watch these oscillators, though. Like short term, the stochastic's not doing so well, but the momentum's still there. So, I would keep it on the list. And see if it can make the turn here. But it's made a major accomplishment just getting above its 200 after so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
CNC. Robert wanted to look at CNC. Oh, that's CNN. We don't want to watch it CNN. CNC. There we go. Whoa, whoa. Centene. Wow. Look at that. And that's not even. Oh, wow. Well, I don't know what the question is.
That took a big poop.
Yeah. Well, that's saying it nicely. Wow. How would you like to have been in that one, though? I mean, that's like, oh my gosh.
That's scary.
Yeah. But yeah,
Unless
this
you're
could
on the
happen.
other end.
I don't know what happened. Maybe look up the news, but something obviously happened. Robert, are you on? What does CNC do? Maybe he's not on. Okay. Well, the next one, moving right along, ASML. Oh, ASML and the green line of death. It came up, had a nice run up on this big candlestick, hit intermediate sell levels, came back down. We've been rolling along the SML line, or along the resistance line. And you can see the typical, what we all have seen before. I mean, it's above the 200. I like that. It finally got above the 200 on a longer term trade. But here we are. There's this 9 comes up. Can't really get past that resistance level, starts to roll back down. And now you're below the 9 and your support on the 20. Your oscillators are looking bad on ASML. And we'll see what happens. It could come down and bounce off the 50, or it could just stay here in this line, underneath the resistance level. But I don't like buying this close to the resistance level. I like buying and having some time to move up. So let's see what else I got.
Hey Google, what time is it?
AHR. Oh, here's your AHR test systems on a swing trade. Look, it was nice. It got above the 200 and ran. Then it hit resistance for 3 days in a row outside the Bollinger, pulled back in the Bollinger. Okay. You had this big candle of indecision. Okay. With the wick up, and where'd the wick go? Right to sell orders and then back down. The bears beat it back down. And you had pretty good volume. You had 4.6 million, where the day before it was 2.2 million. The day before that was 1.6 million. So you're seeing a lot of people indecisive on AHR, but from a swing trade, this would have been a nice one. You get in here, ride it up, get out. It's back inside the Bollinger Band, still above the 9, but it's got to get past this resistance level. And you're starting to see, the MACD down here on the histograms kind of slide down a little bit. Huh. Oh, shoot. 8 more chats. Anyway, Bob, what do you got from Florida? We haven't seen you in a while. Anything? What's your thoughts?
I asked you to look at DPST, which is basically a bank, which I've been riding a little bit.
D what? D.
DPST.
It's a 3 times leverage.
Yep.
DPSC?
DPST.
ST. Okay.
I've been spending time looking through the big beautiful bill. There's a lot of stuff in there to benefit business people. And also, if you're investing in real estate, I haven't gotten to the amendment yet, but there's a 20 to 30% tax deduction on investment property. I know we're not going to talk about this, but I'm just throwing that out there for those that invest in property.
Huh, that's interesting.
But I'll have
I
more
think that-
details if people want to hear about it soon.
Yeah,
What-
it's
one of
interesting.
the-
Go ahead.
One of the risk elements of leveraged funds is how they leverage, and they typically use future contracts, and those future contracts trade 24/5, so 24 hours for 5 days straight, right? So when this ETF closes down at the end of the trading day, it sets in its net asset value. So the value, the price of that ETF. If the future contract, something came out overnight and the futures went up, let's use positive first, up, the NAV is going to gap up. And you can see this in some of the price movement if you go back a year or so, these gaps up and gaps down. But it also can happen overnight. And a lot of hedge funds use these as intraday trading vehicles, and that's where they make their money. So, Bob, I would just be cautionary, because what you're gonna fight is time deterioration on the underlying assets. So
Definitely.
Yeah, I got
just
my
something to be
stops.
careful of.
I got to stop in, but it's been working out for me. So
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
caught it
I caught
definitely
it
since
correctly.
mid-April. You've caught that move up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a different beast. I saw that. I think it was TMF came across on Discord the other day. Somebody mentioned it to me, what I thought, and it is a 20-year Treasury bull 3 times ETF. And all it's done is go down, but it's going down faster than the actual like TLT, because it's 3 times leveraged.
I see your hair in here.
So
Well,
it's just,
like anything, right? There are the dangers. Like take this one, PFFA, right? This is one that Mike gave us.
That's preferred stock. Yep.
And I've been killing it on this.
yeah,
It
it
gives you
pays out, right?
probably gives you a pretty good dividend on that one.
Oh yeah, it's like 15%.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, preferreds.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about this, the difference between the leveraged one and the non-leveraged ones is, or this one is, this is not leveraged.
Right.
So
Right.
The
whereas
other one's
if you-
leverage, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's more of everybody else on the call,
Right.
because I see this
It's
a lot.
okay, explain it. So this way they know, they understand.
Yeah. Because it will rip your face off.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Like anything.
those leverage plays are not meant to be long term. They're meant to be intraday, like Trent said.
Right, it's a daily thing. You gotta keep your eye on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one here, yeah, I remember when Mike brought this one up. This is a nice one for just income and growth
Yeah.
now. Yeah. PFFA. Yep. Well, we're about out of time here, Trent. It looks like market's going to open, or it has opened. I can't recall.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so let's we'll wrap it up there. This is a good one. I like the ideas. Oh, we forgot to do
oh, do you have
the
it
platinum
real quick?
list.
Do you have it?
The platinum list. I'll create a new one. So let's just make it a note tomorrow. If you have an idea on stocks that you think are going to go up over the next 6 months, we'll submit them tomorrow, and I'll create a tracker, and we'll review it once a week. Real quick, I know Craig had a question. He had his hand up earlier. And
Oh,
Craig,
okay.
did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, this is a basic question, probably past a lot of these other guys, but when using your stops, Mark, I know that you had said, obviously above, and then you were using a tight, like there's tight, intermediate, and looser. How do you know which one to use when you're trying to figure out like an exit price or an entry price?
Experience.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out how to
Well,
use it, I guess.
I guess, when I look at, this is Estee Lauder, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this was a cost base. This is where we put it on the list right here, okay? At whatever, 75.19, we'll say. And it's rode up. And then, this was Monday and this was Tuesday. Okay. So Monday was a bad day, but it didn't hit. I go back, I got a lot of profit here. And so I could actually put it at 20, I could put it at the first line of support, which is here. I don't like to give profit back that much, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm at Estee Lauder and I see this here and here, and it's going to open up, that's where I put in a sell limit, and then I can leave. Okay, and you can see it came down yesterday and hit my sell limit and popped back up. So yeah, I left a little on the table according to this, what I'm seeing today, but I made over 13%. Okay.
Yeah.
Can this still go sideways and then take off again? Absolutely. But if I'm on a short-term swing on 13%, heck, I love 13% as a yearly gain. If I have an ETF and it goes up 13% a year, I'm good. I'll take this. And that's what swing trade does. So I've learned not to be greedy. And I've also learned that if I made the wrong decision and got out, and let's say this thing goes up to the next level, 91.19, and I got out at 85.11, so I left $6 on the table, not to let that where it would ruin my weekend, because I made 13%, because I got out.
Your 91.19 there, is that on a tighter set, or
That's on above tight?
and you always run tight?
I always do tight.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing you got, one thing, Craig,
you're a
that's the
more
hardest.
conservative.
I am, but I have to be, and it works
Yeah.
for me. It works for me. I'm not a gambler anymore.
All right.
But the biggest thing, Craig, is to get a system in place that takes your emotions out of it and follow your system and blame it on your system. And again, I have it on the bottom side, 2%. So I'm willing on any trade from the time I get in to lose 2% or let it run up, and that has worked for me, because if I lose 2% and then I have several trades where I'm making 13 or 7 or 6%, that 2% is meaningless to me. I would rather run it up than down, because once you're down, you get down 50%, it takes 100% price action to get you back to even. It's
Right.
horrible. And I'm sure we've all done that. You get a stock, you buy it, and it goes down 5%. You're like, okay, I'm going to wait for it to go back to even, and then I'll get out. And then it goes back to even, it goes up 2% above. You're like, hey, I'm going to stay in this. Then the next day it goes down 15%. You're like, oh crap, I should have got out yesterday. See, now you're second guessing yourself because you're not following a plan, and then your emotions get in. Like, well, now I'm just going to wait for my money to come back. And it's a casino complex, I call it. You go in and you're on a machine and you're up 150 bucks. You're like, yeah, this is great. I'm gonna keep playing. Then the next thing you know, you're down 150 bucks. You're like, well, I'm gonna keep playing until I get back to even. Now you're down 500 bucks. And you're like, oh man. And that's the same. It's kind of the same mentality in some of this trading. And so I use my guidelines. And if I get out, I get out, and I'm happy with what I get out, and I move on. And I'll wait. I'm pretty patient. And that's the other rule. Don't get greedy and be very patient. And have a plan. And let your plan do it for you, and take your emotions out.
How do you know when to set like your sell order when it's above it like that? I mean, or how do you know when to set it for that or to let it run? I mean, is there
Well, I mean, right here was the example yesterday. Okay. I looked at where it was yesterday. Here's where we closed. I'm like, I don't want to lose any more money. I think it might go down to this point, and it did. Okay. But it did pop back up. So again, I'll take 13%. I looked at what my percentage was. I'm like, 13% is really good, dude, for me. I'm like, in a couple, in how many days were we in this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days, 13%. I'll take it. If it goes up, it goes up, and it could. But again, I'm very conservative. I'll take 13% is huge, man. In 11 days, I wish I could do that all the time. And but I'm happy with 7% in 11 days. I'm happy with 2% in 11 days because let's say if you made 1% a day, okay, just on swing trading. Okay, there's 280 trading days in a year. That's 280% when you add it all up. That's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, so you got to have a different mindset, and then you got to have a trading plan that works for you and your risk tolerance. I have a low risk tolerance. Okay. I'm older. Okay. Like a lot of us on the channel, I don't have time if something goes down 50% to wait for it to come back up, and so I get out. And I think Bob, you're the same way, Bob, right?
Yeah, I my risk tolerance, if I feel the market's even going to take a substantial drop, I start selling off, keeping my profits, because there's always an opportunity to get back in. It's just,
Absolutely.
you have to be patient. A lot of people get that feeling that you're going to miss out. Yeah, you will miss out for a period of time, but eventually all markets correct.
Yeah.
The
Return
question
to
is
their mean. Yeah.
percentage. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15%? Right now, in this market, we've been pretty damn lucky. This market has been going up, and there's really nothing that can support why it's been going up. And our PEs are very high. When someone before
Exactly.
was talking about 21 PE, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
high PE.
Yeah.
That's not a low PE, that's high. You get down into the teens is really where you want to be, for the correct PE. But you got to watch PEs too, because PEs go two ways, right? You'll find a high PE also on a very aggressive stock. Let's take NVIDIA, right? It's never gets down there. It's very rare if it gets down there. But yeah, you gotta keep, if you've gone through bad times like Mark and myself and Trent, you get to understand when it's time to roll out, because we are little peas in a pot to the big guys. So you gotta de-risk.
Couldn't
Okay.
say it better, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Did that answer your question, Craig?
Yes, I think so.
It's hard. It's
It's
hard
Well, I mean,
because it's so individual.
the way I look at it, Craig, is once you're up on a trade, you shouldn't lose. Okay. So always have a stop or a limit sell on the bottom side that you're comfortable with taking, whether it's 5% or 7% or whatever,
Well, I'm kind of thinking on the top side. Like if you initially look at something, let's say, you see a stop at a certain amount. I know you've said before, you put in an order, okay, it's at 15 up here, but we're at 12 right here, but you'll put a sell order in at 15. I'm trying to figure out how you decide that.
Oh, let me see again.
Or am
here.
I guess maybe I'm confused. I don't know.
I don't
No,
think
I
you're
think
confused.
I think it depends on your time frame. I think also, if it's a short-term swing trade, look for resistance levels going back in time. And that'll give you a better idea of, okay, this could become resistance. This is where the sells have been in the past. I'm going to put my sell order just below that, maybe 5 cents or so.
You use
let's
them
use this one, Craig. So this is one that just got done yesterday. So you got in here, okay, at this point, you're writing it. So your question is, where did I decide to put this line in here? This is where it sold, okay? This is where I put my stop, my limit sell order right here when it was up. Is that your question, Craig?
Yes, yeah.
So, this is today. This was Tuesday. This was Monday, that big dump day. So we ended on Friday. We're outside the Bollinger Band, 1, 2, 3 times outside the Bollinger Band. Normally, it doesn't do any more than 5 times. You don't trade outside of this line more than 5%. That's on average. So we know that as a fact. We know that already. So at some point, it's going to pull back in. The other thing we have is we have a large profit. So Monday came and we had that big, we opened up here, okay, at the top. This is where it opened, the price. On Monday, I looked and I said, okay, I don't want to lose any money. I don't know how far this thing's going to go down. So I went, and this is a big old candle here. Okay, that was a good day. And this was a big old candle here. And so my decision was, like Trent said, I looked back short term on mine, and I said, I'm going to put it right here because, it opened here. And if it goes down that far, the chances are I don't want it to go any further and lose any more. I don't want to get down in this area. So I put it right. I look back and it's right about where this opened and this closed. That's where I put my sell limit on Monday. Monday, it didn't hit. Okay. I'm doing good.
Yep.
Tuesday, yesterday, it did hit. Okay. Fine. I'm up 13%. Today, okay, we're up a little bit. Still not looking good. I'm looking at this. And if the market turns better, Craig, and this comes down and hits this 9 and starts giving me more incentive to go up, maybe I get back in. But here's the kicker. I'm going down here to my oscillators. I'm seeing the slow stochastic has crossed over a day or two ago. Okay?
Yeah, they're dropping.
Yep. And then you're seeing the MACD come down. If that thing crosses over, that means this price action is going to cross below that 9. And you've been pretty good on your momentum, but we'll see. So I'm happy with getting out. But I just go back and look backwards, basically. Let's look at let's see if I can, like ball. Here's one where I bought, or I was trying to buy. Okay. So I went back. Here's ball, and this was on our list Monday. So here's today. Here's yesterday. Here's Monday. Monday was down. Okay. Didn't get in. Tuesday it came up. I'm like, well, where would I buy in here? Well, I would probably put it right at that point. Well, it didn't hit. So I didn't put it in today. But luckily I did, because look what happened to ball. Now we're down below the 9. So again, that would save me from, a little bit of a loss today. And then I should have went down and looked. The stochastic starting to roll, which gives me an indication too. So this one didn't get into because it didn't hit. But I try to go back, either hit here or here. Here's a big old candle that came off that 200. And I'm like, well, maybe that's where I should put in, but now I'm starting to see the 9 roll. So I'm glad I didn't hit that one for sure. So again, you kind of go back. It kind of takes practice and a little bit of time. When I said, experience, Craig, it really is. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's why we always, we suggest you do a paper trade, when you start doing, swing trades, or even if you're going to do long-term investing, just kind of pick something and say, go back on a chart and see how your system would have worked, and we do that all the time on, on the 200-day moving average. We go back and look and and back test it. and see how it works. So I'm still not sure I answered your question, but we'll work on this every day.
Yeah, that helps. That helps.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Big,
Thanks for that
a
question, because
big,
that's a good question.
I think a big thing you can always do is just, what is it? Henry, he's an Irish ex-hedge fund manager. He's a real dynamic guy. He says, I will sit for hours on end looking at chart board, and he'll just go through hundreds of charts, and he'll look. And what you do in doing that, you're looking at charts, you're looking at behavior, because remember, this is all human behavior, and this is a study of human behavior. And if you more and more you look at it, and you look at the behavior in all different time frames, different events, different circumstances, different geopolitical, economic events, you start to see patterns. And the more and more you do that and you look at it, the more and more you start to see, in a way, the future. You see resistance and support levels, and you just become better at it. I will sometimes just go through, Kerry's list. I'll just, pull up the Russell 3000 and just go look at, 1 year, 5 year charts, looking for something. Just, I find it interesting because it's human behavior that we're studying there, and it can tell you a lot. So just practice. It's just time.
Yeah.
Here's something else. I mean, Bob brought up the regional banks. Okay. And so something that I do is I'll go look at, see how a sector is doing. Okay. So like the XLF, this is the financial sector, sector ETF. Nice run up, got above resistance, hit sell orders, and now we've come back down. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Let's look at JPM. See if you start seeing a pattern here. Let's look at Goldman Sachs. Okay, where we're seeing a pattern, let's look at Morgan Stanley. Okay, let's look at Citigroup. And the fact I can go through these, I've been looking at these way too long. Let's look at Wells Fargo. Okay. I mean, that nice run up. And you see this?
They all look similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they hit resistance and they all look similar. And then you see this come up. And now I go to myself as a swing trader. I'm pretty much done probably in financials for a while. Now I need to go find somewhere else to find. And maybe I'll go somewhere else, and maybe it's industrials. And I start seeing industrials come down and hit that bottom and start coming up. So I'll start looking in the industrial section to find these stocks. And then, you'll see several. And sometimes you'll see in our watch list, several, and maybe they're in energy, maybe they're in banking, maybe they're in industrials, because money moves sector to sector,
Yeah. Taking it. Also look at, like, I've got here, I'll show you real quick, of XLF. This is a monthly chart of XLF. And what do you see? You see that, it's been trading, in my case, above the intermediate monthly trend line since 2012. It just bounces up and down. It broke through it back during the March 2020, but it's just going up. And you look at these deviations from, I'll drop this trade trend line because that's a little deceiving. You see these deviations from how far it gets out from this intermediate trend line, monthly trend line. And that's where you're at. You look at this, where it's at today, and it's right up against resistance. So there's a good chance you could see your MACD and your RSI start to roll over. This is a monthly point of view.
It's going to pull back near your yellow line there, your 60, whatever that is.
62, yeah. So, or it's going to come back down to where it hit resistance back in November of 21, became support in April of 24. It could be another support level right in this range. So it could be a better, a $10 change in that price and a better buying opportunity. But you take that into account with, what Mark broke down, the individual companies and their earnings reports, and start to come to these conclusions. But I think it's really important to start to look at things from all different time frames. Like Mark said, money flows from one sector to another. And historically, if you can see that pattern, from in this case, like financials to maybe, what's it, XLE? XLE is energy. If I go back and look at energy, let's see, this is going back to 1999. Energy has a resistance level right in there, right around, just round it up to say $95. Boom, back in 2008, something similar to that in 2014, and then all through the 2020s. That's where it's at.
And
What's
that's
going to
a
drive
good
oil
point.
higher?
That's a good point, Trent. I'd go back and look, and you can see that markets follow. They're an animal of trends.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Was it XLD? I'll just do one more. This is consumer communications. Look at, I mean, communications ETF is pretty new. So it goes
Meta's in
back
that one.
What's that?
Meta's in this one. Drives it a lot.
Medicine. So
META.
2018.
Yeah.
So you just, I mean, I don't really have a good, if I look at it from the weekly, gives me a better idea. So I would encourage you to look at all time frames. It can give you an idea where money's flowing, because that's what you're chasing.
Yeah.
You're chasing the flow of money. If you're shorting stocks, you're chasing the flow of money out of a sector. You go sector, companies, weekly, monthly, weeklies, dailies, depending on your time frame. Yeah.
I think the one thing that I haven't been doing, I mean, I'm looking at all oscillators, but looking further back, like you said, I need to start doing that more.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing my wife and I have had a number of discussions over the last month since we've been traveling a bunch. And it's like, we'd like to change this in our lives. We'd like to change that in our lives. But if you go back in history of your life, you can see patterns and behavioral patterns of what you do and how you do it. And it's a matter of, if you can read those, you can become a better reader of who you are and what you're going to do and how you're going to react to situation. It's the same thing with stock market.
Yeah.
How are we going to react to Iran or Israel bombing Iran? Historically, you look at that and go back in time, and we didn't react. Markets didn't react to that because we're just used to it. But that's the kind of thing to think about. Anyhow, blah blah blah. Just have fun with it.
Yep.
Just
I have
smile
to
and
say
laugh.
this is our longest morning edge of all time. We just broke a record, I think.
We went into my nap time. Come on.
Yeah, an hour and 24 minutes. Your nap time. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. We didn't know that Trent took naps in the morning.
He does.
Lately, I've been sleeping much, so a little 15, 20 minute keeps me.
If you want to sleep in a camper,
I haven't bought the camper yet, so I'm still.
I was talking
Airbnb.
about your trip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
no
Anything else, guys? Since we've already gone late, anything else that we missed? That can't wait till tomorrow. Anything?
All right.
Tomorrow's another day. See you.
Another day.
That is. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Y'all have fun.
Have a good one.
Woo!
All right.
Thank
All right.
you.
See you guys.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.